Hey, I'm Emily.
And I'm May, and we're the co-founders of DUNE Sun Care.
And you're listening to Hey, How You DUNE, where we interview amazing, inspiring guests and chat about the weird, the unexpected, the funny, and of course, as always, the relatable, to inspire you too and maybe give you a little laugh. Hope you enjoy, and as always, cover your assets. There she goes.
Here she goes, and the New York City.
Oh my God.
Oh my God.
A winner.
She's going to be wearing this all year.
We've got a winner, ladies and gents.
I gave myself 36 hours of grace period.
I thought it was 24.
I made it higher.
Wait, what's the grace period? Tell me more.
Where I can just brag about,
36 hours? You mean 36 years?
36 years post marathon, I can keep bragging about it.
Yeah. So you get something in the mail?
No.
Okay,
I
this
just
is
get
it?
This is it.
But you need to you're going to plaque it, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
For sure.
This is our very first guest.
But my name is Diarrha N'Diaye-Mbaye.
Jada.
Jada.
Yes. Get it right, guys. This is a really big deal to have you on as our first guest onto Hey, How You DUNE. You get the Joey
I
reference?
get it.
You get it.
Oh, how you doing?
How you doing?
How you doing?
Exactly.
Yeah, that's where it came from. Okay, so let's kick off here with some context
Okay.
about how we know one another. This is really important because we're just coming off the heels of a really important summit that we were both invited to.
Yes.
In Paris at the L'Oreal Bold Summit, where you were asked to speak and talk about your incredible brand, co-founder and CEO, by the way, of Ami Colé.
Yes. Wait, I have no co-founder. It's just me.
Oh my God. I'm just so used to saying that.
I know.
She is
I
the
wish I
sole
could.
founder.
Yes.
We applaud you for that. Because
thank you.
I cannot believe you run this company by yourself.
Me either.
And your family.
Yeah, running 2 companies right now.
Basically.
It's insane. But I've always wanted a co-founder, but I just never found the right kinship. Because, most of it is just finding someone you trust enough, love enough, respect enough to do this with. It's a marriage.
Oh my God. Yeah.
It's a marriage.
It's more intimate than a marriage, I think.
I think so,
Yeah,
honestly.
We say this all the time.
Yeah, it is more intimate than a marriage.
I know.
True story. So basically, I haven't found my partner yet, but I'm throwing it out there in the universe.
Wow. Do you want a partner?
I do. I'm tired.
Yeah.
I think that it can be very lonely.
Yep.
As you can imagine, even within your bubble, right? Could you imagine having no one to talk to? So I think sometimes I can make the mistake of talking to, for instance, an employee that's, that came in as a friend or, someone in your industry because they need to at least understand it, but they're not your partner. So I think the equity and the kind of code of conduct does not apply. It's unbiased. It's no agenda. It's you two, where I think that sometimes I just don't have the permission to do that. So I learned that very early, though, not to vent to my employees, but day one, I'm we used to work together, so I'm going to just keep treating this as another job. And I'm no, actually, I'm the leader of the ship, so I have to have boundaries. So it can be lonely.
We learned that too recently. Yeah,
it's a really hard and fine line. To be honest, we had a really big shift in the business, and I got really emotional. And we don't have a physical office, so there's not a moment in the day where we're having this face-to-face human interaction where we can, applaud the team to their face or
so hard.
get, discipline the team when things aren't going well, because everyone should be held accountable, including us at the highest level. Everything starts from the top. But I had this breakdown human moment, and May was side texting me hold it together, woman. What are you doing?
This was on Zoom?
Yeah, it was on a Zoom. And And I fell into tears, and and then I was like, I'm not apologizing for this, because
Yes.
I'm a human being like everybody
Mm.
else. We are the closest people and obviously the most passionate to our businesses.
Mhm.
But it is a fine line. It is such a dance of
Mhm.
how you should be
Mm.
versus how you feel you should be allowed to be,
Mhm.
based on just regular human emotion.
Yeah.
But it's
So
really hard.
interesting.
There's no curriculum for it. It's
Absolutely
tough.
not.
We applaud you for doing this alone.
Thank you. I
So,
applaud you guys for doing it together because that's just as hard, finding the balance. But
yeah, it
yeah,
is. Over 80% of co-founder relationships end in a divorce.
yeah.
So we've like really figured it out and
Mhm.
gotten into this
Thank
groove
God.
of getting
Yes.
fatly closer and
Yeah.
stronger together.
And then one more note to that. It's like, so that is the beauty of having a co-founder.
Mhm.
For me to be able to be like, hey, like
Check, check.
let's check ourselves right now,
Yes.
So and it applies for her to be with me,
Mhm.
So it's the beauty of it.
But we want the audience to know. Okay, so May
Yes.
just talked about how you're a mom.
A
You're not just,
mother.
you're a mother. You're a mother
Mhm.
of so many things.
Mm.
But, when you sat next, we spent the day together and at this amazing summit, you made this groundbreaking speech that arguably was the best of the day. I mean, everyone in the
Oh my
audience was in
God.
full tears.
Really,
Um,
I
like,
know.
and then
So
you sat next to
emotional.
Oh
us
my
at
God.
dinner and you talked about your relationship,
Mhm.
your husband, and how
Mhm.
you are managing a long distance relationship, like the
Mhm.
very longest
The
of
very long.
distances, with two babies here.
Mhm.
Talk to us about your love life. How did you meet your
Okay.
husband, and what's up?
So we met my best friend at the time. Well, still my best friend, but at that time she was working at a hotel,
Mhm.
and I just left Glossier, had plenty of
Mhm.
time, and was trying to figure it out. I wasn't in the best of spirits, honestly, and I went to this Halloween party that she was throwing. So around this time, October 31st, I go to this Halloween party, not dressed, no makeup, just like not really feeling it, but also didn't have anything to do. And I was bored in Harlem because I had been visiting my parents that weekend, I think. But I lived in Brooklyn at the time.
Mhm.
So I go to this thing, and this guy, my now husband, he walks into a hotel lobby. This is so wild because I don't even go to hotels, so like the chances of that happening, whatever. So he comes in, and honestly, he's with a group of people that I'm like,
Mm.
I know these people. I know their tendencies. I'm not really interested. So he first comes, he's like, "Who's this girl? Like, I love her complexion. Like, please don't ever change your skin tone." I'm like, "What do you know about beauty?" I'm like, "What?" I'm like, "Okay." And
Don't bleach
then,
your skin.
yes, don't bleach your skin. I'm like, and I'm snark. I'm like, I would never. Like, why would I bleach my skin?
Mhm.
Then I sit over, and I sit down, like I'm at the bar, and I'm just like, now I'm really bored. I'm like, okay, fine, let me talk to this guy because he's kind of cute. So then I'm like, you come over here.
That's how you ring them in.
alpha
How do you
alpha
bring
women
it in?
energy. So
Mhm.
he comes over, and I kid you not, we've been talking since that day. So we were talking like the whole night. We had a blast, like literally hopping from club to club in Harlem. We went to like the 24-hour seafood spot that happens in Harlem. It's
What?
called El Puerto. El
Need,
Puerto.
need to try it. Need to try
So
it.
good. So we went over there literally like 4 o'clock in the morning. It's like raining. It's dramatic. Then I'm like, I think I like him, but I'm gonna leave it alone because I know he doesn't live here because he just told me I don't live here.
Mm.
So, because when I first saw him, I thought he was going to be like traveling from like LA, DC, not Senegal. So, long story short, this was October. November, he went back to Senegal. December, I went to Senegal. I'm like, I really like him because I'm like seeing him in his element now.
Wow.
So I went to his job. I'm like, oh, he actually does have a job. Okay, cool. He does have a house. Okay, cool. Checking
Mhm.
off a couple of things. And he was just so consistent. He's like, I like you. I don't know
Like
what games you're used
consistency.
to, but like, you're my wife. I'm like, okay, calm down. Calm down. And as fate has it, March comes and New York City shuts down. It's COVID. And I am now definitely stuck at home, definitely bored with nothing to do. But I'm like having many existential questions about life and like partnership. And like now that I'm physically alone as well, I'm like, this is kind of shitty. I would like to have a
Yeah.
partner.
Yeah.
And then towards the end of March, my dad gets really sick with COVID, and he's like entered into the hospital, and now I'm in a dark place. So I'm like, literally, I left Brooklyn, moved in full time with my mom to keep her company, and we're like literally day in and day out just waiting for doctors to call. Like, he's doing better, he's doing this. And at that time, I'm literally talking to no one but my husband, my mother who's in front of me, my sister to make sure she's okay in Brooklyn, and waiting for doctors to call. And I remember like not having nothing, honestly, nothing in terms of health scare, and like, like nothing traumatic has happened to my immediate family. You'll have deaths of uncles and cousins, but like not my immediate nuclear family. So I was rocked.
Yeah.
So in that moment though, he stood up and he like stepped up. It was not about like how beautiful you are, how cute you are, how much fun we're having, and all this stuff. It was about like life. And I hadn't had that.
So much better.
It's so much better, and I didn't realize
So
that.
sexy.
Yes. Cool. So in that moment though, unfortunately both his parents had passed. So he knew like the extreme, like how extreme and how far this could go. And he was like sort of like the protector miles away from me, but I never felt so close to someone. And you know how it is, like you're talking all the time, like sun up, some down, how's dad? Every time the doctor will hang up, I'm talking to him, and he's like, listen, like you gotta focus, you gotta pray, you gotta eat today. Like, is there a project you want to do? Like maybe shift your energy there. And I started like just hunkering down on Ami Colé, like just dreaming of like what could possibly be, and like how I could make my dad proud if he were to leave and come back home. And when my dad got better, like around October, I'm like, there's this dude. Now that you're back, let's just wrap this up. Like I'm ready to be this guy's wife. And then he came finally because the borders opened again. I think he came in like October-ish, and then we were married in November. At first, my dad was like, "Who is this guy?" I'm like, "Dad, honestly, if it wasn't for this guy, like, I would have been mush. I would have been mush over here." So it was like, it was like so spiritually connected, and like that was my guy.
What like strikes me to the core is that this guy lived in the same town as your mom and sister.
Yes.
And where you're from. That's what shocked me the most. You were living in Brooklyn.
Yep.
You were at some weird ass party in Harlem at a hotel. Which is so cliche for Halloween when you're like young and doing weird shit.
I had a turtleneck on, black turtleneck, no makeup, braids, and jeans. I was like, I'm not into jeans.
And then this guy from Africa comes on in.
At that period, this is his first time ever traveling abroad.
What?
This is his
that's
first
the shit
time
I'm talking
ever.
about.
I think the other trip that he had was like Morocco. So whenever I'm like giving him shit, he's like, do you know how many stars had to align for us to meet? And you're talking about what?
I mean, so stars align. This is like past life stuff.
Yeah, and it felt that way.
Yeah.
When I met him, I'm like, you feel way too familiar. Like, literally the day I met him, like at the bar, he's like, here's this chicken butt. I'm like eating chicken. I wasn't even trying to be cute. I was just like eating chicken. I'm like, I'm never going to see this guy again. He like lives in Africa.
Were you telling me that? And I was like, that is love.
What? Yeah, it's like someone like had like a Popeyes chicken. I'm like, I'm actually kind of hungry. He's like, here you go. I'm like, okay.
And this is why I liked you, because you were yourself.
I was myself, 100%.
And
then again, I was like in a funk. I was like, oh, like I don't have a job right now. I'm like not worried about men. I hated dating. So anyway, that is our love story, and it's been now 4 years, and it's been 5 years since that Halloween.
Talk to us about your experience building the business, because we know what that took. We built our business during COVID.
Oof, a lot of delusion. A lot of it. A healthy dose of delusion. I think at that time too, I think I was very much, I needed to prove to myself that I could. Something I've never shared before. I actually got let go from Glossier. I never share that part because, I mean, NDAs and all that, but I, was bought into that ecosystem that was a beast. It was a monster. It was, the marathons of beauty. They had been like literally on the highs of raising $82 million, like fresh matcha and flowers in the bathroom every Monday, like literally a whole 3 girls cutting fresh and opening roses.
That's their whole job is to open.
Literally, like Flora Birch, like
They
their
had
job
like a $1.8 billion valuation or
valuation.
something. That
Yeah,
just like
at that point it was
like,
only D2C. It wasn't even wholesale.
that's
right?
insane. Yeah.
So I think I'd been in those trenches, and I'm realizing very quickly, no, I do not know it all, but I am a student of life, and I'm always curious, and I just knew I wasn't set up for success. I didn't have the right people around me. Like the company was so young and so hungry and brilliant people, but in terms of like leadership and pulling you through and trying to extract the best of you, I wasn't awarded that opportunity. You know, I think that Emily did see a vision. She knew that I had been so product first forever. I had been one of the first literally shade benchmarks for the first iteration of Glossier. Like I'm on the first ever like product page and like shade finder. And I remember working with the PD team.
They shot you for the PDP?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I remember like that summer, it was like 2014, like the PD team like chasing me down at a Brooklyn party, like, girl, we need you to have the sample. I'm like, whatever, give me the sample, I'll try it. And it just came so natural to me. I'm like, this needs to be a little bit more toned down. It's too red, a little bit more yellow. There's something flashing here. It's a little ashy. Is that dimethicone in there? They're like, how do you know this? I'm like, I don't know. That was 2014. So to fast forward a little bit, like I kind of got my dream job, you know, to be in PD, not marketing, because my background had been in social media marketing. I felt so excited. And then I think when the flowers weren't as rosy, I left there thinking, I'm going to do this. I'm going to prove that, number one, I know what I'm talking about. And if I'm awarded the opportunity and the fairness of it, I think I can take this somewhere. So I think there was the energy of that kind of boggled behind me. Having the period of COVID, honestly, to quiet everything down. I'm not like hustling as much and networking and going to this event and trying to find a new job and piecing the puzzles together. I had unemployment. I was in the house. I was covering my bills, and I was incubating. I woke up, slept, and dreamt everything. My kitchen had samples. My living room had photos. My bedroom was my mood board that I have still. And everything was, this needs to happen. And then it slowly became more natural, and like it just kept going more and more into, I'm like, oh, these are the 3 products. Oh, okay, this is that. I'm like, okay. So I had no money. And then for 2020, this is 2020, before 2021, zero funding, no pipeline to funding. I had like a couple of meetings of like, oh, that's cute. Like, oh, that's so cute. You're not an influencer? Oh, great. Oh, not celebrity? Okay, great. So how are you going to market this? I'm like, I don't know, but the products are great. So 2021, that's when I finally got funding. So between 2019 and 2020, delusion, delirium, vision, scraping by enough to continue to trust myself, and then getting a lot of support from my family. And in terms of like energy, not even financially, just like keep going. Maybe this is something, you never know. I'm like, okay. Just a little crumb was enough for me to just keep going at it. And then I just documented the entire thing on Instagram.
Who were you as a little girl? What were the characteristics that you had that you think were the main attributors to being the person that you are today?
Okay.
Or founder, entrepreneur, crazy person.
Crazy person. I literally always kind of had it in me. And I feel like, I really do feel like with society, including my mom, was trying to like get it out of me because I just was so hyper curious, hyper active. My mom has had a hair salon since I was born. Literally, my mom took out the crib out of the hair salon like a couple years ago. Like my baby crib was in the storage at the hair salon. She's like, this is where I put you. And I was like, with all that hairspray? I can't imagine. I would never do that to my kid. And then my dad was a travel
brain cells.
Thank God. My dad was a travel agent. So I traveled very early. Like I think my first travel abroad was age 7. Growing up, specifically, you know, with my background and travel and all that stuff, my dad always was like, why not? Like, absolutely do that. My mom was a little bit more mundane. Like, she's a stickler to the rules and so forth, and just wanted me to be a polite, quiet woman. So I do get a lot of like poise from her and like all of that. But I think, again, as a child, I was just hyper curious, always asking questions, very creative. Teachers saw that in me too. Like, I think that people were really invested in me and like really didn't want me to get bottled down. Like, people try to bully me. Like, I was the bully that bullied the bully. Like, I was like, no, you got to try another joke. That wasn't funny. And they're like, what do you mean that wasn't funny? I'm like, no, try again. Try harder. And they would be so upset.
Oh my God.
So they would leave me alone.
That's such a good piece of advice for life too. Bully the bully. Before we get into Spitfire, what's like, we were talking before we started this, like what are some like of the key kind of ingredients that you think really help drive the success of a business or the success of an entrepreneur? Because it takes, you know, a lot of people are building brands. A lot of people are able to bring them to market. But what does it take?
I think there are personal attributes and then there's also business attributes. So I think that personally, and I've learned this lesson this year, that it's not about the intensity, it's about the consistency. It's not about doing every single day at 110%, burning out. Oh my God, hustle, grind. I'm so cool because I grind so hard. It's really about how do you pace yourself and like, especially being adults, right? Like, okay, it's time for water now. Sit down. Time for a nap.
Have you eaten yet?
Have you eaten? Have you refueled? Like, what are the pit stops? But just keep going, though, right? And I think that eventually you look back and you're like, how did I even survive that? Let alone still here to thrive or to, you know, go to the next level. So I think the consistency part is so integral. I think at a personal level, in terms of characteristics, I think that probably all of us on the couch did enjoy some level of control. If I input this, I output this, right? Right, exactly. Yeah. If I do this correctly, like why wouldn't it go in my favor? You know what I mean? And I think business is the opposite of that. And I think in order to survive, there takes a level of, number one, agility, something coming your way, plain sight, and you having in real time without all of the sure factors, be able to allude to what this could be and understand and build a worst case scenario, a middle case scenario, and best case scenario. I think oftentimes I was operating in best case scenario. You give me X amount of money, I'm going to give you 10X. Like, of course. Why not? What will go wrong?
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? But then, you know, last minute, your shipment out of Italy is late 3 weeks because someone in Italy decided to take a vacation. Out of your control.
Out of your control. Yeah.
But what I can control is like, okay, given this, what are we doing to move forward?
Always pivoting, always planning against what's happening right in front of you.
Being an agile athlete, like flexible enough to be able to have power and force, but also to be able to stretch. I also think not taking things personal as well. I think that maybe, again, similar to you guys, we want to do a good job. And when you're looking at a fiscal year and you're looking at the KPIs or the OKRs, you're like, I am not doing a good job. But come to find out you are. Because we talked about this before, the Nikes, the Apples, Steve literally walking away and coming back and being begged back for his vision alone, not the business acumen, not the science and logistics of it, but the actual heart and love and the art of it needs to be protected. And sometimes, and sometimes it does not translate in an immediate linear way and not feeling like a failure when that doesn't happen, because that's happened to me right now. I honestly thought the forecasts that I had were going to exceed that. I thought, you know what I mean? Yeah, like we're going to go full chain. We're going to blow it out the water. Like, why not? Of course, this is the magic sauce. But then being able to also pivot again, stop, not take it personal, and really reassess, you know, what type of energy do you need to have the momentum that you need? Energy means team. It means resources, but being able to articulate that to your investors, having a plan, not taking it personally, and being able to say also, you know what, I was wrong. You know, you were right with your foresight. Maybe this price point wasn't correct. Maybe this, you know, maybe this vendor or, you know, third party is not correct. I want to listen to you now. Are you open to that? Like,
like we're like living in the same
world,
same moment of time, moment in time. And we were talking about this too, because you know, we were saying, particularly as it applies to investors, when they see that the revenue projections maybe aren't what they were, but you're growing still. And you're like, hold on, I've done a huge amount of recalibration on the back end and housekeeping that's going to propel our growth next year or even immediately. Whether it means like, all right, we had to pivot and hire a new agency, let some things go that weren't working, learn from our mistakes. Like we grew too fast in distribution. Now we have to hone in on our best places to drive revenue and focus there. But to your point about Steve, product is paramount. We always say that. So same.
Yes.
And slow, grow, and focus. But with product being the main kind of core route to what's glue that's like going to give you you know, customer loyalty over a really consistent period of time that will help drive, like you want the 10x, but the only way that happens is when you do all that stuff in between. Like Nike almost went bankrupt a million times. There were massive lawsuits and years until they really took off.
That's right.
And so it's like really just doubling down and staying focused.
And articulating your values, right?
Yeah.
I think at the end of the day, even as a consumer, there's a reason why they're going towards Nike versus Adidas or something like that. So I think I'm also pausing to also be able to articulate the values so that way customers, employees as well, retailers all know what I stand for, what I won't bend for, what I will bend for. But I think it's also like being so patient and honestly a little bit faithful. Like, you know what, the right investor is going to come. Someone is going to figure out that.
And they're going to believe in you.
And they're going to believe in you. And also know that these legacy brands or story brands are not built in 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. It's year 7.
Not really.
Well, I think we're like coming out of this age of like the unicorn brand. And this is like our generation. So like that's like engraved in our head. And like we're like, whoa, like we are doing really freaking good. You know?
Yeah, with the resources that we have as well, because again, was not sitting on a bed of $20 million out the gate.
Yeah, it's different time.
Money talks.
Grandfathering in a team that's already been there, done that. You know, no one talks about that as well. Like, you know, people are like sharing the same CFO that sold 7 companies and just basically plugging and playing, like knows the Sephora playbook, knows distribution, knows how to, you know, calculate contributing margins. Like we're learning this from the ground up. But what I'm grateful for, and I always remind myself, is that regardless of where I land, I know for a fact that I will be equipped to create forever. And create enough to create freedom for myself and my family. And I'm like, okay, it's going to work out. Like I never knew L'Oreal would invest in me. Like I left there like, what? Like I'm like, F you guys, I just not my space and you guys don't appreciate me and all these things. And then here I am like being able to be, you know, backed by L'Oreal or backed by an imaginary that's backed Glossier. I'm like, we're in the same portfolio.
Circles,
and
man.
And you fired me. Circles, patience, grace. I never walked away from any scenario with anyone even thinking I was like angry with them.
Right. I mean, it is all mindset, right? Like it's all mindset shifting. And there's been a lot of like personal work. I think we talk about this too, like limited beliefs. There's people who have limited beliefs and we're like, you know what, you can't get upset with people. Everyone's going through their own journey and personal growth, but they're projecting something onto us. This isn't really about us. This is a mindset issue or whatever experience I've had. And when you release yourself from the attachment of the situation, you're like, you don't take things personally and you don't, you can like move and groove and like continue to move forward in the same way as you always have.
Oh my God.
So love that.
And if you're lucky, you learn that with life and experience and wisdom, right? I for a very long time, I was in the beginning, especially with investors, I was taking it a little bit personal, but I realized like this person literally just has a toolbox of patterns. That's all they have. Numbers.
Yeah, they don't know. They don't even know.
So if you give someone a toolbox with just a screwdriver and 3 twigs, they're like, I can't build a house. Bye. But some magical person is thinking how to use other resources to build something, and then they're like, you're amazing. I'm like, okay.
Okay.
Just about this. Yeah.
Like, what was your big defining moment? Why did you start this brand? Why did you, we always go back to like, you're trying to solve a problem, right? You're not just like trying to put more stuff into the world. Maybe you are, but for what you built with your brand, it feels like you were filling a very huge void through personal experience. So yeah.
Yeah, I think three things. One, I think I grew up knowing this to be true. All my girlfriends, college, aunties, it was a classic. I think we didn't have the permission, especially being francophone from Senegal. We speak French there, and a lot of inspiration, aspirations come from France. So the laissez-faire approach to beauty was always the goal, but we never had the permission to do that. It was very much Mac. Fierce, viva la glam.
Right. Yeah.
And I had to go out and drag to be beautiful versus like getting the permission to have that French girl aesthetic where I knew it was true because everyone that I knew dressed and behaved, that was their makeup style and language.
Right.
But we didn't have the tools to make it. We were always crafting and being, crafty and resourceful to get that. So that, especially my mother, like always a classic lip, eyebrow, face, skin. So that's that. And then two, again, even servicing, at Sephora, people literally asked for this over and over again. I'm like, girl, they don't make this. And like, I started asking my question, like, why don't we make this? Yeah. Like, it's so bizarre. But then I start, imposter syndrome, there has to be a reason. There's no way L'Oreal didn't do this already. There's no way. Like, even investors like, there's a reason why this doesn't exist. You guys don't buy this. So I think that experience
for that one.
Funny. And it was just so simple that it was bizarre that it didn't exist. And then I think lastly, just product junkie. Like I knew that I had enough experience. And I think people trusted me enough, like literally from college to now, like almost 20 years. People ask me over and over again before they made that last purchase, like, Jada, do you think that I should do this? I'm like, no, this is, and they bought it. So I'm like, there's some type of influence or some type of community here that I need to hone in on. So having been an Into the Gloss reader, having consumed so much, being so fascinated with Reddit and the internet and the discourse around beauty, I figured I'd use that passion with what I know from like my, professional experience that I could possibly do this brand. So I think it's personal, my interest and curiosity, and then also at a macro level, being able to present different versions of, Blackness, multiculturalism, that could translate to UK, to Paris, to Uganda, Kenya, South Africa, New York City. That was not the fierce, like Little Kim, vibe of the 90s, which I love, but also like
time and place for that.
You could do it on a Friday. What are we doing from Sunday to Thursday? Yeah. What's my like down low makeup uniform that I wanted to present?
Ready? Yes. It's a duo. It's a dual question. What would be like your staple skincare beauty product in your regimen that's not Ami Colé? And then what is your favorite product from Ami Colé and why?
Oh my God. Staple, I think it has to be the Vintner Zerda oil.
Oof, it's good.
It's just good.
It's good.
It treats, it moisturizes, it does, like you see a difference the night after. Ami Colé, it has to be the skin enhancing tint because I forever wanted a makeup base that was just enough, like moisturizing but not like a foundation, and that serviced that for me. But I remember working at Sephora and having to give all the girlies NARS, and it stopped at like beige.
Yeah,
so. NARS was really like the go-to. It was like Clinique, NARS, Laura Mercier.
We want to hear, what was your biggest oh shit moment of when you're building the brand?
I think it's mostly like, I think in the beginning, like, okay, well, we were supposed to be launching March, we're launching in May. I thought that was a big deal, but I'm grateful we did that. But I think now is like seeing your runway really like up and close. Like, oh my God, like money actually could run out and we could not exist. And like, what does that world look like? So I think that's the biggest ocean moment.
Word. Yeah. Again, aligned.
Yeah.
Okay, final question. What legacy do you want to leave when, let's hope there's an acquisition? We believe you're taking this thing to the moon. You already are. You are like, you've built such a beautiful brand. You fill such an important space for the modern days. Honestly, it's entirely too late. That's to your point that a brand like this exists. And you've done it in like the most optimal way. So congratulations. But yeah, what would be the most ideal outcome to satiate you? What maybe piece of advice, legacy you want to leave?
Yes. So the goal for me is to be a forever brand. Something when I look at Bobbi Brown, how much fun she's had, and even now with Jones Road, I want to be able to create products that could truly stand the test of time and become a part of your uniform. I think at a product level, just like a really good. I would be so happy and so satiated if like it was the mascara for you, it was the lip treatment oil for you that you like are itching to get it back in stock and will travel the moon for it, like because it's that good. But I think from a bigger picture moment and like what would fulfill the little girl in me is just to be able to articulate and provide another language that we can be just good enough as is, you know what I mean? To be able to show up as yourself, a little coiffed, put together, but still, still have permission to be and not have to put on an armor to walk outside. It just tells a different story. It gives me hope for my daughter and my niece to be okay to walk out and be yourself. I think that we didn't really have that permission growing up. It was a lot of like, no, you got to do this in front of these people. You got to wear your hair that way. You got to not wear braids for a like for an interview. Like take out your fresh braids because you had an interview call you 2 days later, and like literally finding myself 8 hours taking down my braids to be able to slick it back to attend a meeting. Right. You already walk in there insecure. You're already at a disadvantage because what you were was not enough. I had to morph myself to be able to sit in the seat to be possibly considered. And then God forbid you get the job and you decide to wear braids and they're like, who are you? Like, I've had a boss tell me, I don't like your hair like that. And it's a black male.
No way.
Yes.
What?
I don't like your hair like that. I like it better when you squat, when you have it straight and then like this. And he just didn't have the language. And I couldn't even blame him because he's not lying. I presented myself that way. And he's not used to this because that language of my braids was just too much for him. But I'm realizing that I can be now on TV and at L'Oreal in Paris.
And celebrate it for who you are.
Yeah,
exactly.
And if you don't, and to also break down the fear around it.
Deviation, my name of my game. What's your love language?
Acts of service, and time.
Quality time.
Quality time.
It's a good question. LA or New York?
Jeez.
I know, even though.
New York City, because I'm a New York girl and I like New York people, but LA has the best environment. Lifestyle, yes.
All right. If you could have dinner with one person, dead or alive, such a cliche, but it's a good one. Who would it be?
Whitney Houston.
Great one.
Oh, hell yeah. That's a good one. That's a good one. Well, speaking of Whitney Houston, favorite song?
Oh my God. Ooh, favorite song? When I'm talking to investors, Who's Gonna Stop Me? Jay-Z
I love it.
And Kanye. Or any interviews, I listen to that song. I love Celine Dion. 'Cause I'm your lady. Oh my God.
All right, death row meal.
Oh my God. Steak au poivre with French fries.
Ooh. Same.
Yum. Okay.
Medium well.
A glass of wine, martini.
Sounds like Paris.
Yes.
Sounds like Paris.
Drunk before I die.
Sounds like Paris.
Drunk.
I would not want to get drunk and meet my maker. Not me. I was like, what? That wasn't me.
I figured it takes a bit to travel, so
touche.
Yeah, sober up.
Love this.
Wow, this is amazing, Jada. You are incredible. Wow, you're the best. We're obsessed with you.
Thank you so much,
Jada. Thank you. Beautiful. Met the babies and your beautiful husband. Full circle to the beginning. Love you. Thanks for coming on.
2025. Here we come. Woo.
Thanks for listening, and we hope you enjoyed the episode. You can listen to all our episodes on Spotify and YouTube. Please follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Dune Sun Care. And as always, cover your assets.